All right. Hello and welcome to the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan. I'm here with my co-hosts Josh Richter and Ethan McShane. We are here week 2 of the off season, or episode 2 of the off season, I should say. And we're here to talk about coaches from last season, first years, how they did. And then we're going to talk about the new coaching changes for this 2022 season. We're just going to go through and grade them, see how they'll fit in that offense or defense or on that team. And yeah, Josh, why don't you take it off with NFL news?
Let's start off with the first thing. The Super Bowl happened.
Yeah.
And Rams eventually win 23-20.
Yeah.
Honestly, we finally all got to hang out and watch the game.
Yeah.
My only reaction to the game was that queso was very good.
Yes,
and the internet not so good.
Yeah. But
oh my gosh.
As far as the game though, offenses were the Odell injury really, and we'll talk about it later.
Mm-hmm.
It really threw things for a loop for the Rams, but that last drive was about as clutch as you can get it. And the Matthew Stafford no-look pass to me is one of the best throws within the last 5 years that I've seen.
Yeah, that pass. You're the one that pointed it out. I was sitting next to Josh during the Super Bowl, and he just looked at the screen and went, that was a no-look pass. Like, no way. And then a replay came up. I'm like, what? That's awesome. I didn't even realize that it was a no-look. So that was a good catch. But yeah, that was a great pass.
As a Ravens fan, I'm happy to see the Bengals not take it, because Ravens fan communities would have been intolerable this offseason. But otherwise, can we talk about how Aaron Donald is, I think, finally cemented, especially with getting the Super Bowl ring, as one of the greatest defensive players to ever play the game?
Yep. I agree. He's definitely earned it.
Yeah. No, I loved it. Their performance was on another level, because that Cincinnati offense was hot going into the Super Bowl, the entire playoffs. And for a lot of the game, they held Jamar Chase to less than 40 yards, I think it was, until his big catch on Ramsey. So they had a great game plan. The secondary is playing good. Obviously, Aaron Donald took over. Leonard Floyd played great. I feel like no one's talking about Leonard Floyd, but
Von Miller had 2 sacks.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Von Miller had 2 sacks.
Yeah, and that's, it's what I said last week. The key to the Rams winning was their defensive line getting to Burrow, and they did. They did all game long. There was pressures, sacks, everything. They were in his face, and he couldn't really get a whole lot done. So, that was the key to that game, and they got it done.
Yeah.
What was crazy though is the more that we're looking at it, there's a stat that came out that said Joe Burrow was sacked 70 times this season. And which that's like David Carr levels and Andrew Luck levels of oh, please don't die. What's crazy about the offense though is that they can get sacked, but they could completely make it up on the next play.
Right.
Which is I thought the sacks would affect them more than I just thought they would affect them more, and they just didn't.
Yeah, because they have the downfield talent to be able to make up that yardage. They got sacked. The next play, they were just
T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd.
All right, let's go.
Huge vertical threats.
And obviously Jamar Chase on top of that.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase.
Thing. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say Jamar Chase, just with the ability to take, 3-yard, 5-yard completion and then just house it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing that I thought was really interesting, I saw a little clip from the last play of the game where Jamar Chase had beaten Jalen Ramsey on the last play. Jalen Ramsey was tripping over his own feet, and Chase was probably about 3 yards ahead of him downfield.
Yeah, that would have been the game-winning touchdown
And
pass.
that would have been the game-winning touchdown pass if Aaron Donald had not gotten to Joe Burrow. They would have won that game.
From Aaron Donald's like perspective, like I've never seen a deep tackle and it's like turn the corner like that. Almost like an edge player. Turn the corner, which is much sharper.
Interior.
And from the interior and then get to the quarterback. Like that's just, and then even the play before is even more insane. Like, how do you, someone going full speed towards the first down, it's 3rd and 1, and how do you hold them and on top of that, pull them back?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He literally just like grabbed him and went, nope.
Those
I mean, the other thing in that is like Mixon runs hard.
It was P. Ryan.
Oh,
So
okay. Well, then there's your answer. But
yeah, that might be.
But I mean, you got to think like if you had Mixon in there, that's probably a first down.
Yeah, or at least fourth and inches to where you could do a QB sneak, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Mixon ran hard in the Super Bowl. I don't know why you would put Samji Perrine in on a critical 3rd and 1.
He's usually the passing down back. So I think it's almost like Cincinnati like big brain themselves.
They were trying, they
thought too much.
But at that point, if it's like
surprise, wrong.
Yeah. But like
not surprised. Aaron Donald
is in the Super Bowl, and this is kind of like the Rams drive beforehand. You just have to go, and what's funny is a lot of the Bengals games have done this too. It's like my guy is better than your guy, and like that's literally what the entire playoff run was. It was Jamar Chase take down that number 1, and he would usually do it. So this one is they try to be smart, and I guess this is where maybe the 2 weeks of prep kind of really throws you off in the situation. But I feel like Mixon makes probably a little bit more, but it gives you a shot to go QB sneak on 4th down.
Yeah.
But overall, that was a fun game.
Yeah, I loved it. It
was a very entertaining.
It
was a very entertaining game.
Very entertaining game with an even crazier Doctor Strange trailer. I might add that.
Oh yeah.
But
and the Moon Knight trailer too.
I cannot
so
wait
excited.
for Moon Knight.
Oh, all the memes that have come from that Moon Knight trailer. I love it.
Dude,
and then an even better halftime performance.
That's
like
true.
I mean, we haven't had a good halftime performance since 2016.
It's
very mixed reviews though. It apparently has gotten very mixed reviews. A lot of like the older generation, they don't like it. And a lot of the younger generation
loved it.
A lot of the young ones didn't like it. But there was a nice middle ground between like mid-20s and like late
Gen
30s where it was like everybody was going,
the one time that Gen Z and the millennials agreed on anything was the halftime show.
Yeah, they were like,
look, that was
90s.
That was very like nostalgic. Starting with I'll be honest, like I think my favorite part was probably Kendrick, but like starting off with next episode, I was like, that's a great start.
Man. Yeah. But I loved how they snuck in 50.
Yeah.
Snuck in 50
hanging from the ceiling.
They never announced him. So it was awesome.
Yeah. So besides the Super Bowl, that's kind of just our thoughts on the Super Bowl. As far as NFL news, before the game even happened, we got some player awards. Aaron Rodgers, MVP. Interesting.
Hate it.
I was about to say this is probably the one year where you probably shouldn't. But then again, like the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like Cooper Kupp maybe, or this is where
there were QBs that played better than Rodgers.
Yeah,
and that's my other thing.
I mean Tom Brady.
I would say
Tom
Josh
Brady
Allen should have won.
No, I would have been more okay with Josh Allen
too.
Than Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then because
what did he do?
Yeah, and that's
he carried Green Bay on his shoulders.
Yeah, Rodgers has been carrying Green Bay for his entire career.
Devontae Adams.
Well,
Aaron Jones.
If you really think about it,
carried a good defense. Carried.
Yeah.
Questionable.
Here's why I say it, because most of the time, like with all the plays, especially with how Green Bay calls it, they're like Aaron Rodgers, make the play. And it's not, and obviously there's some gimme plays like here and there, but it's not like Kyle Shanahan or McVay where you're like, hey, I know your scheme and I'm gonna find a way to like really break your rules.
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur doesn't do that
Mhm.
as much. And where like Matt LaFleur is like in between, if you had a spectrum of Kyle Shanahan and Mike McCarthy, Matt LaFleur is right in the middle. And I think eventually I think they have to kind of adjust it some more, but overall MVP, interesting.
Yeah.
Offensive player of the year, Cooper Cup, no surprise.
Thank God for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a given.
yeah, that was
I
a
mean,
given.
1,900 yards, triple
Just-
crown,
Yeah, winning the Triple Crown,
performance in the
of
Super
course.
Bowl.
Yeah, it literally like the greatest receiving season of all time. Are we
It might have been, yeah.
One of.
Yeah.
One of.
It's
one
up
of.
there with Megatron and Jerry Rice and Julio
Randy-
Jones in
and
2015.
Randy Moss.
Yeah, and Randy Moss.
Randy Moss 2007 for sure.
Yeah.
And it was funny. It's like he's 2 under Randy Moss as far as the record goes for like first year like pairings of quarterback and receiver, which
Yeah.
is still crazy to me because there was one less game involved. Defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, makes sense to me. I think he deserved it.
He terrorized all
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, though honestly, Aaron Donald could have probably won it again, but like
Yeah.
TJ Watt, 22 and a half sacks in about 15 games.
Yeah.
If he played one more game, he breaks the record.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, TJ Watt definitely won it over Aaron Donald, but yeah.
You can make your
Yeah.
arguments for both.
Yeah, you can make the
Yeah.
argument for both. Jamar Chase, offensive rookie of the year. I think this makes sense.
I
Yeah.
think it does too. He was just very explosive, just like Jefferson last year.
Mhm.
Very explosive right out the gate. He was wide receiver number 1 for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He could have made a push for the overall
Mm-hmm.
offensive player of the year if he didn't start so slow.
Yeah.
Well,
He started off slow, but
Chase started
Yeah.
off hot, kind of
Mhm.
died midway through the year, and then ended hot.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ended
but
on
I'm
a
talking about that like after his
65?
first or second game when he because
Oh.
he played well and then
Oh,
like
talking about
second, third,
the,
fourth, fifth game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
That was the same with Jefferson last year though, too.
Yeah.
That's true. And I mean,
Jefferson, it took him a couple of weeks to get started.
if we're looking within the fantasy sides, because the last person is defensive rookie of the year is Micah Parsons, which that was a no-brainer to me as well.
Yeah.
I think what Dallas did with Micah Parsons is actually a lot of fun. So I kind of want to see what version 2 is when it comes to this year, especially literally like
That defense is gonna be cool.
Yeah, that defense is going to be a lot of fun. It's just
Yeah.
can they hold up?
And
But-
Can Trevon Diggs not allow another 1,000-yard season?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
I
issue,
remember. Oh, go ahead. No,
I was
no,
gonna say
go ahead.
my issue is that they're not going to get as many turnovers as this past year. So do they get better at holding down yards or anything like that? Because if they weren't getting turnovers, they were getting picked apart. So that's where it's
Yeah.
like, ugh, I don't know. Maybe that's where they look at another corner, honestly.
Well, and that's why, last year in the draft, when I saw them make this Micah Parsons pick, a lot of people, it was an iffy pick because their secondary the year before was picked apart,
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely horrible. They ranked in the bottom, like what, 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
In the
like
league.
31 or 30.
They were
Mike
awful.
Nolan's not that good either.
They were awful. And then they go and pick a linebacker instead of a corner or a safety. And it's like, why? Like,
Well,
your
and
first round pick,
it did help. But
it did help,
it did.
but that's not where their weaknesses were,
well, I mean,
They
their
had
guy
Leighton-
got taken
They had
too. I
Leighton
mean,
Van Der
Surtain,
Esch.
but Surtain was
Yeah.
off the board too, and
Yes,
there wasn't
and
really
J.C.
another.
Horn.
And yeah, of
Yeah.
course. But like
And
there was
CJ
plenty
Henderson.
of other, there was plenty of other, corners out there that were worth it.
Well,
they-
but then
they picked
that's a good
Parsons.
argument for BPA or need.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
where
And
I think
that's why,
BPA is
like-
correct. And
Yeah. And that's why, they picked him up. And it ends up being, a very good pick that they picked up.
Right.
So,
yeah,
Overall,
overall,
on 'em.
yeah, good on them, honestly.
yeah,
If you want to know
they were smart.
some interesting stats, especially on our part, when it comes to fantasy, Aaron Rodgers QB7 this year, so
Mhm.
that's where very interesting.
Yeah.
And then if we look at Jamar Chase, well, let's obviously Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 1, but Jamar Chase, wide receiver 5.
Yeah.
So definitely some interesting stats to go there. Now, the last bit of news that we do have, this part I hate the most. Odell's torn ACL in the Super Bowl. I'm pissed because he looked so good in that offense to the point where I was like, look, if you need to move on from Robert Woods, you can do it because you have your upgrade in Odell. But man, they have two. I hate this like so much.
It's hard to see, especially in the Super Bowl because it's so late in the season. It's literally the last game of the year.
Yeah. No, Josh, that's a good point. Really quickly, I don't want to leave that. That can be a whole other rant in itself, is turf versus grass. Because I understand the maintenance, I understand the aesthetic, I understand the cost differences. I understand all of that, but from a player health perspective, we're losing more ACLs and Achilles and MCOs because of turf.
Yep.
When, okay, we pay a little bit more for grass. Yeah, it's a little bit different. But I mean, Arizona's already developed the system where they literally have the pallets of grass that they bring in. So, I mean, it would take an adjustment, but it's doable.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the Rams literally got a brand spanking new stadium. You have to build your stadium around that, like Arizona did. Arizona built their stadium around being able to do that because they bring that that whole field outside and then bring it back in for games.
Not
so
impossible.
You can.
But I mean, is player health worth it for you to do that? I would argue yes.
I would argue
true, but try
as well.
But try arguing that to people who spent hundreds of millions of dollars to build a brand new stadium.
So that's the legitimate question is like, man, you've already spent what, $1 billion on the stadium, and then both the Chargers and the Rams use it. So not only is it one team's approval, you have to get the other team's approval. But even on top of that, it's like, to me, I mean, I'll give an example. The Ravens had turf at one point, and then they went to hybrid, and then eventually they just went straight to grass. And so I know it's possible for them to do it. It just sucks that one of the best and most popular NFL players literally gets his leg buckled because
his cleat gets stuck in the turf.
And there's no give whatsoever. Like, how many other injuries have we had about that because of turf? Like, I mean, Cowboys, great example. You had Alan Hearns have that nasty injury, and then Dak's injury of all people.
Well, I mean, and here's something else. What's the most injury-prone stadium in the NFL?
That would be
MetLife Stadium.
MetLife
Stadium. No, I already know the answer. MetLife Stadium.
MetLife.
There are more ACL, MCO, and Achilles injuries from the turf in MetLife Stadium than anywhere else.
San Francisco, week 2. That's where we all joked about in 2020. All joked about F's in the chat for week 2 because that was the most injuries I have ever seen in 1 week. And literally, San Francisco lost. Oh God, they lost Mozart, they lost Nick Bosa, they lost all their top guys, and then you're just like, well, crap. Good luck. And then I think Garoppolo hurt his ankle on that.
But that's what old turf does.
Exactly.
But it's not even that new turf is better. It's still the same problem.
Yeah, and eventually you're going to have the same problem. So how much more money are you saving by going grass?
Yeah. It's hurting your brand. It's hurting your brand when you lose these players to injuries like this.
Well,
so I mean, you have to go out.
And there's also that potential where if it happens enough that the NFLPA comes in and will say, all right, well, you want to have this turf, our players aren't going to play on it. So you either lose half of your players or more because they're not running on it, or you get grass.
Yeah, I just don't think it's good for the NFL when you're trying to build the popularity of these players, and every third year out for season.
Yeah.
It just does not help. I think that's what kind of killed Saquon's career so far, was that ACL injury. And obviously, besides the fact that he plays on a really crappy New York Giants team, but let's not talk about that. But the fact is like the ACL injury, like you're trying to prop him up as one of the top players of the game, and out.
Yeah. It's
Like,
tough.
yeah,
It's
it's
tough.
Yeah, it
super
is.
tough. And
I know,
Very tough.
and we were sitting there on Sunday, just like looking at OBJ, and like I think there's a general consensus of, man, I just want to give that guy a hug.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, for how much he's kind of
Yeah.
been through, like one, I mean, dealing with Giants and the Cleveland, and then finally getting to a team and the coach that is like,
and then having to deal with Baker Mayfield.
But I do want to
I
say
want to talk about that.
his
But
performance in the Super Bowl was admirable, even though he only got to play like one half.
yeah,
You know, he still got a touchdown, still got a couple
Mhm.
catches.
he started the game 2 for 52.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know he it was an admirable start, and it's not like he didn't earn that Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
You know, he was on. He played hard for those few weeks that he was apart during the regular season,
For sure.
and then all throughout. You know, the
I'll be honest though,
the
like
postseason.
if we're really gonna talk like this, I think Odell saved the Rams season. Because at that time when they signed him, literally they signed him Friday, and that following Monday is when we all heard, oh crap, Robert Woods tore his ACL. So you immediately knew like where he was going to fit in, but having that second receiver kept Cooper Kupp on fire. Because honestly, I don't know if Van Jefferson's steps up, and then Bo Skronek as your wide receiver 2 or 3, like it's not going to work.
And that's where I love the player development and the GM and all of that background office, because that's what they dedicate their time every year. I don't know how much you guys watch Hard Knocks, but
I started watching the Colts one. The Colts one's so good.
It's all of them are so good. Dallas's was good, Arizona's was good, the Rams was good, the Chargers was good. But anyways, back to the point, just seeing the decisions that go on behind the scenes of, you know, they were probably saying, okay, OBJ's available. We don't necessarily need a wide receiver, but what if something happens? Let's get a deal. And then look what happens. Something.
Yeah.
You lose Robert Woods, you know, and it's just those guys who are always calculating and seeing who's available. The Falcons did it in their Super Bowl run with Dwight Freeney. That was another one of those moves with GMs. In terms of always looking, what can you get?
Yeah,
and especially
go ahead.
I was gonna say you go.
See, I was just gonna bring up, you know, they went for him because they knew that they were Super Bowl contenders.
Right.
They knew that they were going to go deep into the playoffs, and they needed someone other than Kupp, you know, out there on the field.
Right. That was my exact point as well. It's like,
see, they're making that run. They went all out, like with Matthew Stafford. They went all out with that trade because they knew they had a team that could win. And they were putting pieces together to make this run. And that's how they won. You know, they had all the pieces together.
Yeah, when you know your team is good enough, and when you know like you have a GM who's willing to like, hey, let's go take the shot, or with a coach that's like gonna put y'all in position, you just start going, look, we can do this. And I mean, you have to give credit to the Rams there. Like, I mean, going after Odell, like, especially after everything going on. Also, 1 year removed from tearing his ACL against the Bengals. And it's just, I think that's something, one, it sucks for Odell. But I really hope he does stay in LA, because I think he can really flourish, like, back to, like, Giants level Odell.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? If he's good, I honestly think, like, best case scenario, you're out 6 months, but then you take a month to kind of get back into the swing of things. So you're really kind of hoping Woods is kind of 100% back, but your top 4 now, you're looking at Kupp, Robert Woods, Odell, Van Jefferson. I think you have a solid 4 right there.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too, like it goes back to the adage, you know, if you're going to take a swing at the king, you better knock him out. Because if you don't, you know, and now I don't know that I would necessarily call the Cincinnati Bengals the Kings, but I mean, they took down Kansas City.
They took down Kansas City because Kansas City couldn't knock them out when they could.
Exactly.
And when you get
they had to go through the NFC gauntlet too, you know, which I would say that was more of the king that they had to knock out.
Tampa,
than
they,
maybe the
they
Bengals.
had to go through Tampa, and Tampa almost
Mhm.
pulled it off.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
San Francisco, who McVay has never beaten Kyle Shanahan in his life before,
Yeah.
pulls it off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
That
they
was
had to
crazy.
swing,
Yeah.
and they did. And you got to give them props. I mean, you can cry about all the moves that they did, and oh well, they have no future. They gave up their first. They gave up their second for Vaughn. What?
Yeah.
There's still
Don't
the
matter when you're
chance.
winning. Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't
Exactly.
matter when you're winning.
I see a fat W and a bunch of haters.
And
Sorry.
I see a Super Bowl ring. Like that's just
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah.
And that's what
That's the
you
NFL.
have to give. You have to give them credit in that, and that's it.
Mhm.
Just for that.
Now, going back to the injury, one thing I think we should talk about very quickly. We'll probably mention it again in free agency, but what are the Rams gonna do? I mean, I think they keep OBJ, but as far as Van Jefferson, as far as Scarborough,
Van
as far as
is still under contract, if I'm not mistaken, because I think this was only his second year. I might be
right,
wrong.
but I mean, he's a cut or trade potential still, even though he's still under contract.
Who knows? You also have Tutu Atwell, who was the second round pick last year. So I have no idea. Really, I think the bigger issue you're going to have to look at running back, because that's where you got Michelle, Darrell
Yeah.
Henderson, and Cam Akers. But all three have been highly injury prone. Don't know
Yeah.
where that goes. Does Whitworth retire because he got the Super Bowl now, and he's a 41-year-old left tackle, which props to you, because I don't know how you're doing it.
Yeah. No
Um,
joke.
And then on top of that, you got to pay AD. You got to pay
Mhm.
you got to pay basically everybody. But the cap does go up. But here's the thing though, when you've won the Super Bowl, like you know that you could do it. So
Mhm.
I think everyone could buy in and go, let's go again.
But that's why I bring cut trade potential for like Van Jefferson, for Robert Woods, and for their running backs. What are they gonna? I mean, one of those running backs is gone.
I think Michelle
It's
would
got
be
to
gone.
be. That's what I would assume.
That's what I would assume, because
Um,
Michelle and Cam Akers are the most similar. And then
Yeah.
if you had to make me choose between, here's why I don't think Robert Woods leaves, is because I don't know for sure if Odell will be ready by the season.
Yeah,
There's
by
a
next
higher
season.
chance of Robert Woods being ready. I could see
Yeah.
Robert Woods being a mid-season trade. But to be
Yeah.
honest with you, once you get the McVay machine going, and especially like with Odell still has the speed to even take
Yeah.
over the Van Jefferson role. So it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
not crazy. So like it's not crazy for me to see all three on the field next year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the cap does go up 20 million, but like really and I think this is an important thing to know as we keep doing this podcast. 2023 is going to be insane, because that's where the cap finally explodes. Like that's where you're going to get your high spenders. So I think a lot of teams are going
Really?
to try and push money into 2023. So like I think the Mahomes deal, you'll see like the really high cap hit, even though I think it does start this year though. I think if you see Lamar's deal, and now we're talking about Derek Carr getting 40 mil.
Well, and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I think they're going to push, teams
Mhm.
are going to push money into that year, because the cap is projected like at least 260, or it's like super high. But I
Yeah.
don't, like, everyone's like, this is the spending boom that we've been talking about. And it was supposed to be 2020 till COVID hit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's where I think,
Yeah. Free agency is gonna be crazy.
I think a
I'm
lot of your
I'm
contracts
excited.
are going to look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next, what we have, let me not hit the mic. This is the time we finally get into our head coaches. Now, if you're wondering where our head coaches preview was last year, well, the episode kind of got messed up by yours truly, so I apologize.
Thank you,
there.
Josh.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, Ethan. We're going to be reviewing all the first year head coaches from last season. We have set up a grading system, A, B, C, D, F, like your typical school system. Now that hurts my soul now saying that out loud. But basically, here's how we're grading them. Your best fantasy weapons, how did they use them? And that is how we're grading on it. So I'm going to pull up our nice little document here. We're going to start off with Eagles coach Nick Sirianni, and I've actually kind of done some of the more research on here. I give him an A+. Ryan, what would be your grade?
I put him down as an A.
Ethan?
Yeah, definitely A minus for me.
Okay. Honestly, so I know I'm a little higher on him than both y'all. I have him as A plus because of one thing, and that was the major schematic change midseason. Because that's not one, that's not normal. But two, it when they switched to that system, they really actually started utilizing Jalen Hurts' strength. And for
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, who ended up being quarterback 9 on the year, especially with the running, like his rushing ability, it's like 10 rushing touchdowns, 784 yards total. I think that's super impressive. I understand not using Rager and Devonta Smith to the best of your abilities, but if we're really going to view it this way, last year was Jalen Hurts' rookie year, essentially.
Yeah.
And I
No,
think
I can agree with that.
I think you can see another jump, especially because who they're targeting the most. Dallas Goedert becomes tight end 7, I believe. I'm going to double check that. Yeah, he's tight end 9. Jalen Hurts was QB 8. Dallas Goedert was tight end 9. And overall, it worked. Like they were 3-6 to kind of start the year, ended the year 9-8. That's impressive. And I crapped, and I'm going to eat crow on this one. I crapped on him because I thought Eagles are getting the first pick in the draft next year. I was totally wrong on that. And I think, like, and if you look down and see the roster, this team is bad. Like, really, really, really bad. Like, no, like, not a lot of, like, difference makers, like, in their prime. So the fact that even made the playoffs to begin with, I give props to them because I give props to Nick Sirianni of most of all, because that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. No, I mean, where my grade comes in, where I knock points for sure is that early season. Like the
That's
scheme
fair.
wasn't there. He didn't have the run game going, which is one of their strengths. I mean, even with Jalen Hurts running the football, that's a strength. All the running backs, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, and then obviously Miles Sanders. That's their strength, and they just refused to run the ball, even though they had one of the better offensive lines in the NFL.
Yeah.
Well,
And
because
so
they were trying to force it.
yeah, but I think they proved Josh right in saying, okay, well, we're shooting for the first overall pick at the beginning of the season, which is where they lose points. But, making that adjustments, getting the run game more involved, being a more balanced team is what got them into the playoffs. And they impressed me towards the end of the
Yeah.
year.
Honestly, Nick Sirianni impressed me so much.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep. And so the next coach we are going to talk about is, well, Ryan, take it away from here. Brandon Staley. What was your grade on him?
Staley. All right. Brandon Staley, I gave a B. The way he used his offensive weapons, great. Number 4 in the NFL when it came to their offense. They were just firing on all cylinders. Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, all of them were doing great. Where he lost points was his defense. Obviously, the defense was their big weakness this year. I think they were like ranked 29th in opposing rush yards, or in rush yards allowed from their opponents. So that's one thing that they have to do this offseason is shore up that defensive line and their linebackers. Shore it up, get their run game, or get their run defense back on their side.
Yeah.
They were awful last year. So
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I think
100%
my
agree with you there.
prediction, Staley, who is a defensive coordinator for the Rams, so he knows his stuff. I think he whips that defense into shape, gets a D lineman and some linebackers to bolster their rushing defense this offseason. And I think they're a playoff team next year. If Herbert and Eckler and all of them, if their offense keeps steaming like they did this year, I think if he whips that defense into shape, they're a playoff team next year. So, but as a first-year head coach, I think he did well with that offense, but it's just whipping that defense into shape that he lost points on. So
I can totally see that.
yeah.
And I gave him a B minus. Like, so I'm
Mhm.
kind of right there with you. I kind of put more emphasis on him with a lot of the fourth down calls. Because
Oh yeah.
sometimes like the best thing, and I think there was a few fourth down calls, not many, I'll be honest with you, not many, but there's a few where I was like, ooh, I think you may have let them back into the game when you like if you don't get this. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens.
Well, and yeah, that's what happened in week 15 with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's
Two
where
times inside the 5-yard line where he went for it on fourth.
which I mean, yeah, you can
So
get points there, but it really depends on like for me, like if you execute,
yeah.
is it there? And a lot of times it was like
Yeah.
it was a good call made.
Yeah.
But there was a few of them where I was like, in game situations, I don't know if that was the best one because if you don't get it, now you're giving them a shorter
Yeah.
field and the offense is struggling, and then that's where it
Yeah.
gets different, especially like within the
But
5-yard line. Like they still have
yeah.
95 yards to go, so like
Yeah,
that's
but that was if I believe um
I think
I believe it I was right in thinking that it was a close game.
yeah,
So
because Chiefs won in overtime that
they
game.
ended up losing. I know they ended up losing in overtime, and they had a chance to at least have 3 field goals
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah,
They would have won by 9 points and
There
not
was,
gone into
I think
overtime.
there's just an adjustment in decision making that
Yeah.
Brandon Staley has to
He-
either grow
Yeah.
into, or it's going to cost him his job.
Yeah,
Is what I would
he's a
say.
little risky. He's a little risky on fourth down, and that's I think that's
Well, I think
that
he's just
could
a
that's
little
good. It shows
inexperienced. I
his
wouldn't
well,
say he's risky. He just doesn't know yet,
yeah,
and he
but
learned
yeah,
he's a
it's just
the
getting
hard
the
defensive
way.
nuance
he's
like
a
with it.
defensive minded coach, and
Right.
that's I think that's where it comes from. Is he's thinking more of the defensive side of the ball, and you know I don't know. I think he's just taking big risks. So I think if he
Yeah.
grows into it, yeah, he could still
Yeah.
take those chances.
He definitely
But
has like he can be the one coach that like that team like they're if looking at it right now, they went 9-8. I could see them being
yeah,
14-3 next year. Like
yeah,
and wouldn't
Yeah.
blink an eye.
yeah,
hmm
exactly. They just got to get that defense back, back into shape.
Yeah, definitely. They need some guys up front for sure. Now,
Yeah.
next coach we're going to go into and kind of the last of like our deep dives here. Ethan, kick us off with Arthur Smith.
Yeah. So obviously, being a Falcons fan, I kind of looked at Arthur Smith pretty tough. My grade is probably going to be lower than what you guys would give him. I personally gave him a B plus. Nicely, I would give him more of a B if I could. But when you look at this Falcons team and where they ranked throughout the entire season, they just weren't really good at anything. You know, I mean, defensively, points for, they were 26th in the league. Points against, they were 29th. So they weren't putting up crazy scoring amounts, and they were getting scored on. I mean, defensively and offensively, they were ranked, it varied throughout the season, but, in the mid 20s to late 20s at times. Defense kind of hung around that, 27, 28, 29 mark. Offense, that 22, 23, 24 mark. So they weren't really great at anything, which was frustrating, but they weren't a bad team. And I think when you look at it from the perspective of, okay, well, how did Arthur Smith use what he had? That's where he gets points from me, because I would fight tooth and nail that the Falcons had one of, if not the worst rosters in the NFL.
I'm
And
so happy you brought that up.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I am incredibly proud of what he was able to do with what he had. I mean, now granted, Foye Lucan exploded the season that no one's going to talk about. That was our tackle leader in the NFL. So rise up. Also, Deion Jones having still a great season. I believe he was number 11 on the tackle chart.
So
He was at 11 or 12, but still, so linebackers was working. D line,
AJ Terrell.
Yeah, AJ Terrell,
Mhm.
in my opinion, was the best cornerback in the NFL, the lowest completion rate, the lowest yards allowed, the lowest
Yeah.
touchdowns allowed, the lowest anything you can think of pretty much allowed on AJ Terrell,
He got
and got,
snubbed.
yeah, absolute
Yeah,
snub from the
absolutely.
Pro Bowl over, yeah. Anyways, it's not important, but I think
Cries afterwards. It's not important.
basically, I'm gonna
Not
be in this
important.
bed
It's not
crying,
important.
AJ. Yeah. But no, I love what Arthur Smith built though. I mean, I followed the training camp for Atlanta and the press conferences and the everything pretty religiously because that's my team.
Yeah.
And just how you treated his staff and his players, it was a very we're in this together environment. Like we're building this together. We're gonna grow together. Like I'm going to involve my team in the decisions that we make, and we're going to hold ourselves to a high standard, which is why I love the Dean Pease signing because he's kind of that same
And the
mindset
same
and
mold. And the
exactly,
familiarity in Tennessee as well.
exactly. And so when you get like-minded coaches and players aligned, you can build a darn good franchise. So I'm very hopeful for the future, and that's where I get points back. Now, also as far as he used weapons, he could have done more for Kyle Pitts. Now he is a rookie. I'm not afraid to admit that they were inept at the skill position offensively. I mean, Mike Davis was our starting running back. That's kind of tough when you have a late or an early 30-year-old running back as your starter. We couldn't really use Mike Davis. Obviously, Calvin Ridley had some mental issues, and they ended up losing him for the season, which was a huge blow. Kyle Pitts was getting double covered even when he was in the tight end slot, not out wide or in the slot. Even when he's in the tight end slot, he's getting double covered, and that's just difficult for a rookie. With that being said, resurging. Sorry, I'm trying to just dump everything and then react. But
Go for it. Go for it.
Resurging Cordell Patterson's career, that's huge bonus points for me. I hope they end up keeping him this free agency period. I think Matt Ryan played a darn good season for what he had.
The situation he was put in, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And the only other thing I would say about the system is just interior line is young, and it's either going to take time or take a little bit more investment, but I'm hopeful.
Is it still the 2 first round picks they had? McGarry and
Caleb McGarry and Lindstrom.
Lindstrom, that's who it is. That's who.
Yeah, Chris Lindstrom.
Chris Lindstrom. There we go.
I always forget one or the other.
Yeah.
Now McGarry was interesting because he's coming off an injury and he didn't play what everyone was hoping for. He wasn't bad, but he was about average. That's something I looked at because I'm weird about offensive lineman ranks. And pretty much the whole season, he was about what you expect out of your lineman. He wasn't above the average. He wasn't below the average. He was the epitome of average.
I mean, you said he was coming off injury, so he may improve next year.
Chris Lindstrom was the best right guard in the NFL, in my opinion. Anyone can fight me on that. That's totally fine. Ooh. But phenomenal.
Leave a comment for us if you want to fight Ethan.
Please leave a comment.
Leave a comment.
I would love to talk about it. I love debating football.
I will give Ethan the accounts so he can debate people on it.
I will respectfully have a conversation with you.
Yeah, but I'll
feel free to go to our social media on Facebook.
Yeah, at Last Place Fan of One on
Instagram
Twitter,
and Twitter.
Last Place Fantasy Podcast on Instagram.
Yep.
Same thing. Last Place Fantasy Podcast on Facebook. Please feel free, come for me.
Shameless plug. That's how we do it here. Now,
that's
honestly,
right.
Ethan, I'm actually in the same position as you. I gave him a B+ because I thought I agree with you. This roster's terrible. Yeah. And they were stuck in cap hell, honestly, with a lot of the deals that they had. And then losing Calvin Ridley throughout the year. But you're able to see Russell Gage outperform what everyone thought. And then Cordero Patterson, again, I totally agree with you. No one's been able to really figure it out. New England kind of had an idea, but they still had their system overall. And he just kind of didn't fit the system. And then literally Cordero Patterson was running back 1. And And if we're gonna go into fantasy, like using him, I will bring it up. He was running back 9.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't give him an A is because you didn't find more ways to get Cordero Patterson the ball, because he really did kind of fall off a cliff after the beginning.
Yeah.
But
No, for sure.
otherwise, I was really impressed with what he did, honestly. Even though they went 7-10, it's just that roster was bad, and when you are outperforming what the roster is looking like on paper, that speaks a lot about the coaching.
Yeah. I mean, when
Yeah.
your defense is so bad that you have to run cover 2, I mean that's saying something about how bad the talent they had was. Because I mean, Dean Pease was trying to see if cover 2 would work, and you know what, I can understand that. Most defenses have had success with a mix of cover 3 and man, specifically press man, but I mean, they didn't really have the safeties to do that. They didn't really have
They went through a
the
complete
pressure to do that.
like philosophical change, because they had the
Yeah.
Seattle cover 3, and then Dan Quinn gets fired, and then like Dean Pease the only reason I know him because he was the Ravens defensive coordinator in the early 10s. And they were like, it's 3-4, 4-3, different coverages, not so much zone though. You're playing a lot of man. So like that's where seeing AJ Terrell was so cool. Just because it's like, oh, okay. Now
and he made
you have a
huge plays.
dude. Yeah. And it's like
system,
you have a dude who can like, I'll take down your number 1.
Yeah. No, he locked up. I loved what they did with what they had. I'm excited to see the adjustments. I'm excited to get a little bit more talent on the roster. I think there's a lot of options kind of in round 2 and round 3 for wide receiver help. There are some great options in free agency. I don't think they have to take, a Treylon Burks or,
I mean, they could,
like
but I would look into defense like Jermaine Johnson kind of level. I mean, who else? I mean, now that we're thinking about it, Allen Robinson to Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see a
that's
Chris Godwin maybe too, if Tampa lets him walk.
Yeah. I mean, and
Tampa
their
more than likely
situation's a little
wouldn't.
better. Yeah, they'll probably sign Chris
honestly,
Godwin.
I would love to see Atlanta make a play for Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson in the draft. I would love to see a trade up with Calvin Ridley involved.
What pick they have again?
They have 8.
Oh, they could do it.
So I would love to see maybe a move with the Giants to 4, send them Calvin Ridley in the 8, maybe something else.
I see. That's where
I don't know.
I don't know
if any team is
or
gonna,
to 5, but
I don't know if anybody's gonna buy Ridley though.
Not maybe Ridley and the first to go up. I don't know. You would probably have to add another first.
Yeah,
but Giants especially, you just got Tony Galladay. Like they're kind of good at receiver.
Yeah,
and
to add a receiver like Ridley, who
spent
half the season last year.
Yeah, I've that's what I've been hearing and kind of seeing in the polls too. I don't know if it's to 8 though.
I mean, here's the thing. I think the Jets are kind of your big problem.
Yeah.
Because I think you have to find a way to leap the Jets. Because
but the Jets are realizing their offensive line issue right now. So do they move back and
how do you
take like a Christian Cross?
How are you gonna say no to Saleh? It's like, hey, I can get a generational corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if anything, if we're going to talk about it here, I know you said the safeties were bad. I think Kyle Hamilton's also another really good spot there.
I would love to see Kyle Hamilton go at 8 to Atlanta.
Because the crazy thing is, and I could also see Atlanta doing this because of the cap issue, someone's trading up for Coral, for Willis, for Pickett. Like someone's going to bite because they're going to hear, oh crap, this team's going to move up. We have to go get them now. And I don't think it's going to be in the top 10, like in past years how it's been.
Yeah, the top 10 seems pretty solid.
Yeah, it seems like it's not going to be quarterback. But like, if I'm like picks 10 through 15, you have to think about it at least. Especially Philly. Philly has 15, 16, 19 or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, who knows what they could do? Brandon Brooks just retired. for the
Mhm.
Eagles. They can honestly go up for O-line. But
No, I think the draft's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think it is too.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
going to
know
be
what Atlanta's gonna
fascinating
do.
this year. To me, like the last two classes and then this class, we've had a run of just super good classes.
Yeah.
I think.
I will say I loved what Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot did in last year's draft. I think they got good pieces. I think Jalen Mayfield will be good with time at left guard. Because I mean,
it takes time.
he was a good run blocker. It was the pass blocking that he just got
And like
finessed.
O-line, it takes at least 3-4 years to kind of like
Yeah.
get going. Like I think
But
he'll
I
be
think they
fine.
have something.
I think they
for
got
sure.
something too. And then eventually you have to worry about quarterback, but man, you don't have to worry about this year.
Yeah.
So Ethan, your grade. What was your grade for Arthur Smith?
Oh, I said
Officially.
a B plus.
It was a B?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had him at B too.
Yeah. And any
Just kind of a mid, just
Yeah.
like,
for all
he
the
was good
stuff I threw out there. Just a very mid. I think he has the potential to be such a good coach. I think he's a great coach just on a base level. Now I think he just needs to connect it all together.
Well, he needs he needs to connect it all together, and he needs to get people on the field with talent.
Speaking of people who don't get it connected all together on the field, our next coach we're going to talk about is Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer.
Herbie.
All righty. Ryan, what is your grade for Urban Meyer? We're going to quick hit this thing.
A big fat F.
Ethan, your grade.
An F, and is not allowed in the club.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna revise mine and just say an F minus. Just put sprinkles on the cake there.
Sprinkle it on
an
it.
F minus.
I inherited one of the better running backs in the NFL and said, "Listen, we don't run the ball around here,
and we're going to draft a running, and we're going to draft a running back,
and we're going to draft a running back and not run it."
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just say to tell you, he doesn't deserve to have any like extra thing thrown on him. He's getting an L for me.
Yeah,
he doesn't deserve the grade.
His grade L.
I'm sorry. Yeah, his grade is an L. He does not deserve anything.
He just takes the L. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to say, right? Like
that's really it's self-explanatory. They went 2-11 this year, and honestly, how they won those two games, I don't know.
Because F the league, honestly.
Yeah.
But
Josh Allen on Josh Allen violence. That's why. Yeah, and the Indianapolis Colts finding a way to choke because that's another thing.
That was Darren Bevel. So who was your second win? Oh, it was against Miami. It was in London.
Yeah.
Oh, back when Miami was really bad. Oh boy.
There's a whole other situation going down with Miami too, which man.
No.
It's sad. I'm looking at our list of coaches from last year.
I know you were
only two of them
made it
out of what? Out of 7. 2 out of 7 had positive years, like over 500 years by one game. Those two.
It was tough though, but like, I mean, if we're going to bring it back to Arthur Smith, like I feel like a lot of coaches outperformed what we all thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, yes, it's like 2 out of 7 only went 500, but like, there's like, I see the room for growth.
With Arthur Smith, I feel like he delivered though. Yeah, I feel like
I think everyone knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah. I think people expected him to do a little bit more than what he did. But I mean, he can't just pull it out of his butt, like he can't just make a team good just because he's a coach. He can be a phenomenal coach, but if you have one of the most, anemic rosters in the NFL, what do you really expect?
There's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Well, especially at that. And you gotta say, like, look at Zach Taylor from the Bengals. Yeah. His first 2 years.
Bad.
The Bengals were a crud, man.
2 back-to-back first round picks or first overall picks.
And they kept 5. Yeah, and they kept him in. because they believed in him. And then boom, they're in the Super Bowl this year.
Also 3 straight
Like,
SEC first round picks.
Holy cow.
That'll help.
I gotta say, like it may take a little while to get the ball rolling with them.
Yeah.
So who knows? You just gotta keep the faith almost.
Well, and I think this is the perfect time for them to kind of start piecing it together because the NFC South is wide open.
Oh,
I mean,
as wide open as it's ever been.
Yeah, I mean, you have Peyton retiring,
Peyton retiring, Tom Brady retiring.
You have
Carolina,
Jameis
we don't
Winston
know. Yeah.
leaving the Saints, so they don't have a QB.
And
Carolina still has Matt Rule at quarterback, or not quarterback, as their head
They
coach.
have a
I mean,
quarter-
based on who's played, it looks like Matt Rule.
Yeah,
the
Matt
Saints-
Rule is next starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. It's pretty much how it's going.
Yeah.
But the Saints have a quarterback.
Taysom Hill.
Come on.
That's who I believe in.
Yeah, you just combine like Tyson Williams and Taysom
Yeah.
Hill together. No, but
Taysom.
I saw.
But literally, like the Saints are in cap hell too.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
went
they're going to
all
lose
in
their
and
whole
out.
defense.
Yeah, they're basically going to lose
I
the whole
promise.
defense. Taron Armstead's a free agent. Like they're
Mhm.
basically rebuilding.
It is definitely
It's
turned
wide
around
open.
for the
But
Saints.
hey, they're going to have Michael Thomas.
Are you sure
They're
about
keeping
that?
Michael Thomas. Yeah, they have
Yeah.
said that they are keeping Michael Thomas.
Wow.
Michael Thomas doesn't want that, but hey,
They have
Hey,
they're
here's
holding on.
the Saints are in position though to get a quarterback. Which,
they're
and I
holding
will
on.
say,
Yeah.
more than anything, as far as quarterback pairings, and the more we talk, and I want Matt Corral to go to New Orleans.
Really.
Interesting.
And I think with that, like with the system in place, it won't be like Sean Payton, but boy, it can get pretty close with Matt Corral.
Hmm.
I mean, now would be a good time for them to, get a
just
guy
need-
in there to come learn. And I mean,
Exactly.
it might be rough with the Taysom Hill for a little bit, but
Yeah.
there is a market for quarterbacks. I mean, there's Kirk Cousins, who looks like he's going to be available. Fitzmagic looks like he's going to be available.
I don't know if Fitzmagic's
See, one of the
gonna be-
landing. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't think Fitzmagic's coming back. Like that's a serious
You
hip
think he's done?
injury. Yeah, I think he might be
Mm.
done. Like
Yeah, he's probably going to retire.
39-year-old quarterback with a serious hip injury.
Yeah.
He's had
Nah, yeah,
he's
yeah.
had quite a few years under his belt. I don't blame him if he retires.
But I mean,
But
Tyrod
one of the
Deshaun's looking
landing-
like he's going to be available.
Tyrod.
But one of
is a
the
good-
one of the landing spots for Cousins has been rumored to be Tampa Bay. So
I
Oh
can
my
see
gosh.
I can see it, but if I'm Tampa Bay, I look at Russ.
I'm declining. That's
That's
like your
just me.
crazy
No.
ex-girlfriend calling you,
I
trying to,
know, and
get
that's
back
why
together.
I like.
and
I
you're
don't
just
think
like,
it's
you
gonna
can't hang
happen.
up fast enough, you know?
Yeah. You're
But
just
as
like,
a Vikings, as a
Stop calling me,
Vikings
stop calling me,
fan-
stop calling me.
Yeah, as a Vikings fan, I want to pawn him off on somebody.
Yeah.
Like,
you're just
Pawn
begging
off
I want
for
to
the
get
more
him
youth
passion.
pastor.
out.
It's not
I'm
even
like, I
announced
don't
anymore.
care. Just
This is just a
leave.
toxic relationship, right?
That's what I'm saying.
It
He's the
is.
ex-girlfriend.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. And I'll get to that.
And it's
You
like,
know, whenever
well,
we get
I
to our
have
new
ownership
coaches.
on the house too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we got the whole Kevin O'Connell thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'll
Oh,
get into
we'll
that.
talk
we're
about
not
it.
there
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
We're not there
We're
yet.
not there yet.
We have a couple
We're
more.
not there yet.
We have 3 more coaches to get through. And
Yeah,
I think
Coley.
Yeah, David Coley, I gave him a B just
Yeah.
because that again,
Yeah.
that roster sucked and they were also like competitive and setting it up to where Pep Hamilton is your OC and Davis Mills looks good.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
I mean,
kudos
Davis
to
Mills
you.
is a stash for me right now.
Yeah,
I
all right,
love
David Coley
his
should not have been
future.
fired. That's what I will say. I think he deserved a second year. Like he earned it for me.
that whole organization is just
Is a dumpster.
it's a fire. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it is just
Calling it a dumpster fire is being generous too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, they
I'm not a
pawned
big
off-
fan.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Ryan,
not a big fan. Just in general, I give him a C plus.
Ethan, you're great.
The plus was generous.
Yeah, that's
I would give them a B minus personally. I mean, they've gotten rid of all of their talent. They have, media problems. They have staffing problems. They have brand problems. They have competitive problems. Like I don't know what problems they don't have, honestly, at this point. They started Davis Mills. I mean, that should
They got issues. They started Davis Mills,
And
he
they had
looked like
injury
a
problems.
Star,
yeah.
and he looked like a star out there.
Rex Burkhead
So,
looked
All hail
good.
Rex Head.
Yeah, all
Rex
hail Rex
Head.
Head. I mean, that's just a problem when you can say that
Rex
we live in a
Burkhead
world.
is relevant in 2021.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks is a top 20 wide receiver.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
next coach, please. I can't.
Yeah, we're okay. Next coach. Let's change the tune because I'm really happy about this guy. Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions head
Campbell.
coach. I gave him an A. Again, the roster sucked. They were competitive each and every game. They got screwed in a few of them. Like, I'm sorry. As much as I am a Ravens fan, when you lose to a game-winning NFL record field goal, like
greatest kicker of all time.
Yeah, greatest kicker of all time, absolutely.
So,
but
yeah,
using Amon-Ra St. Brown more, getting Josh Reynolds, and he's becoming relevant. You're making Goff look pretty decent again, while relying on Hawkinson and Swift.
Yeah.
I think to me it's an A.
See, I gave him a B. Their defense was all right. Through the whole year. They stepped up in the last like 6 games.
Yeah.
They stepped up and they made it super competitive. Anybody who was facing them.
Yeah, they
nobody wanted
Arizona.
to lose.
Yeah,
nobody wanted to lose to
and then lost
the
to the
Lions.
Falcons.
And their first win was over the Vikings, which sucked.
But love you, Ryan.
It felt so much better when they lost, or when Arizona lost to them.
It's like okay,
yeah, good. At least we weren't the only.
It's
ones.
It's not just us.
It's not just
me.
us. Woo. No, but I felt like the Lions, although they were a crappy team, and they are in a rebuild, it felt like they were competitors. It felt like every game came down to the wire. Or almost every game came down to the wire, and it was a fight to win against them, even though they were a crappy team. So I gave him a B just for coaching that team.
I think that's fair.
I'll split the difference. I'll go B plus on him. I would give him a B, but just for the sake of splitting the difference. I kind of agree with both perspectives for taking on the Lions. That was rough, and being competitive for what it was also difficult. I mean, you took on Jared Goff, like that's difficult in itself. And so to take that and show signs of life, I think that's a big sentiment to him as a person and as a coach. I'm excited to see what he does in year 2. I'm more excited to see what they're going to do in the draft, because they got a lot of capital for all the moves that they made. So are they going to go BPA? Are they going to reach? I mean, I'm excited to find out.
I still think they have to go BPA. That's just my.
I agree. That's how you build a franchise.
And and it's hard being a head coach, first year hire, knowing that you're coming in
to
a rebuild.
Mess. Yeah.
At the beginning of a rebuild. That's the kind of conversation you have to have with your GM and your owners, and being like, okay, you're wanting to rebuild. You're hiring me to win. We're going in. We're not going to win if we're in a full rebuild. We're not going to win at least the first 2 years. And expect that. And then we'll be rebuilding those 2 years to hopefully build up a team that's good enough to contend. So, and it's hard being that coach.
I think there's a lot to look forward, though. I mean, Swift looks good.
Yeah.
Josh Reynolds looked good behind him. Craig Reynolds at wide receiver looked good. Hawkinson looks like he's going to be
receiver.
Or is it the other way around? Is it Josh
Reynolds at receiver? Craig
obviously I flipped them. Yep, but both of them look good.
Yeah.
Obviously Amon-Ra.
Yeah, Amon-Ra
kind of showing himself. I think I would want to get another quarterback in there personally, but I think they just need experience. I think they need more talent.
Yeah.
Imagine if Aaron Rodgers went to Detroit.
Oh my goodness. Why? Aaron Rodgers and
wouldn't.
Devontae Adams go to the
There's no
go to the
way.
Lions.
There would be no way, but like,
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
thought
If they
That
pulled
would be
that
funny.
out, there's
Like-
no way that the
like
Packers
you
would
would
trade
have
them to
you
the
would be
same
the only
place.
active players to make the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. If you
Yeah.
make Detroit relevant or like a Super Bowl contender again, like
mean, yeah,
to
can you
me,
imagine
that's
the
what-
Lions
that's
being in the
what would.
playoffs?
Yeah, yeah.
But that's
Like,
what
just-
would make them relevant.
But think
Yeah.
about that. The Detroit Lions in the playoffs. Just picture that
Yeah.
in your
Hey,
mind.
Matthew Stafford built it up a bit, but it was Matthew
But
Stafford.
having a Hall of Fame
yeah.
quarterback and a pair in the wide receiver, just a match made in heaven between
Yeah.
you know,
If that were to happen, but I
between
think
wide
like
receiver and quarterback.
I mean those players
Ooh,
fought for Campbell, and I
Yeah.
think that
And
speaks
that's
a
kind of
lot
where
to
my
you.
grade comes from,
shows-
of like a testament to him
shows
as a
good
person
leadership.
and as
Yeah.
a coach.
And it shows good leadership and good, like, what's the word? Personability or
Like
personal
tangibles
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's being able to build that relationship with people
Yeah.
and being personable.
Yeah, personable. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Well, so the last coach we have to get to, and I think this is just going to be really quick. Robert Saleh, I gave him a C because it was
Yeah,
it was
I-
decent,
D.
but
D for me.
I don't think he used like he figured it out too little too late for me.
Yeah.
Obviously Michael Carter, but like literally when you're expecting Zach Wilson like rookie year to just rifle 15-yard digs into like tight windows, and then you completely change it for Mike White, and then it kind of works, and then you finally get to do that with Zach Wilson, like that's where it's like, look, you're gonna have
now
to get better there, but
they-
you are also
they-
the Jets, so
They did lose some pieces too. Like, was it Carl Lawson who tore his ACL?
yeah. No, Achilles. He was Achilles.
yeah,
Corey
Achilles.
Davis got hurt. That's
Corey
where
Davis got
Corey
injured.
Davis
Yeah.
was injured. the
Yeah, that's
entire
true.
year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Elijah Moore was on and off. Michael Carter
Yeah.
on and off.
Yeah.
Not Jared McKinnon. Tevin Coleman is Mr.
Yeah.
Injury himself.
There was just a lot of injuries up there,
Yeah.
but there's also not a lot there.
Yeah,
to
so
be
that's where I
There's
give
competitive.
not
him
a
benefit
whole
of
lot of
doubt.
talent.
But still,
Yeah,
I didn't
and-
think he was a
Exactly.
a
I don't think he
great-
did. I don't think he did
No.
great,
He-
but there's a lot of things to show that, like, that's kind of hard to deal with.
Maybe
Yeah.
another year.
Yeah,
Maybe.
And I'd say, like, he didn't really develop the quarterback position very well.
yeah, but I put that more on Mike LaFleur, which I
Yeah.
know that was a coach we talked about last year, and I think he
Yeah.
could have done a better job for sure.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All righty. So awesome. So that is going to be our 2021 review of our first year coaches. And overall, I think I say there's a lot of room for growth for all of them. I think they have some pretty good choices. Screw you,
Mhm.
Urban Meyer. But now we're going to go into the 2022
Everyone-
head coaches.
Yeah, everyone has a little hope except for Urban Meyer.
Yeah, except for Urban. And well, unfortunately, and David Coley on top of that. But no, I think David Coley deserves.
I think he's
to
going to
work in it.
rebound though. at
Yeah,
least
he'll
in the
rebound for
NFL.
sure. But now we're going to go into the 2022 head coaches, and boy, were there a lot of them. So,
9.
yeah, 9 head coaching positions filled this year, which you don't see it that much. Like the last 2 years are kind of anomalies almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turnover.
But we're going to basically kind of do this very quickly. We're going to grade them like this: are you excited, not excited, or is it a wait and see?
Mhm.
So, guys, we're just going to go down in order from here. Josh McDaniels, new head coach of the Raiders. Are you excited, not excited, or wait and see?
I'm excited. I'm excited. This is his second time at head coach, and I think he learned a lot from Belichick, and he learned a lot his first time head coaching, and I think he's going to take those lessons learned and bring it to the Raiders, and yeah, I think he's going to make a great team out of them, especially with the talent that they have on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Ethan, how about you?
I mean, I think I'm on the excited bandwagon. I think he's coming into a good situation with Derek Carr and with Darren Waller and with Hunter Renfro. I think they have an offense there for him to do something with. Obviously, the Belichick coaching tree is very good, very, very good. Other than, was it Pat He was the lines coach beforehand.
Line. Are you thinking Matt Patricia?
Yeah, Patricia.
Ugh.
Other than Matt Patricia, that tree is, very, very good and successful. I think, or at least I hope, he learned a lot from what happened in Denver after being in New England, one of the probably the GOAT organization in football. So seeing what he takes from the GOAT organization to the Raiders, I'm very excited to see what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I'm excited as well. He doesn't have Tebow at quarterback, so it can only go up from here.
Yeah.
And I even thought how he adjusted with Tebow was still like commendable, and unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. But he has weapons with the Raiders. I think Renfro, you better buy all in with that. I mean, tight ends, slot receivers, everything. Honestly, I see them going after a Treylon Burks or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think we're all on this in agreement. We're all excited to see what happens with that offense.
Yeah. I think they're going to have a good team for sure.
Yeah. Next team, Brian Daboll, Bills offensive coordinator. He goes to the Giants. Are you guys excited, even though he does not have the angel of death with him? I personally am.
I am. I like how he was able to work that offense with the Bills, work that offense around Josh Allen, and was able to formulate the playbook, everything around him to his strengths. And it took a year or two, him being there for that to happen. But I think that if he could do that here in New York with the Giants, I think that'll turn the Giants around. I really do. I think Danny Dimes will have a good year ahead of him. And I think it'll take a lot of the weight from the offense off of Saquon.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I think the Giants offense is not as bare as we all think it is. But I think part of that issue was Joe Judge. I think the defense, you can make that argument, but not the offense, especially with how you have a solid core at receiver. This is going to be the best running back he's had, like as far as coaching and calling plays. All you had to do is develop the quarterback. So I mean, you can see, who knows, we could see an improvement from Danny Dimes, or they finally get their guy in there. But otherwise, I think that hiring Wink as the defensive coordinator, Don Wink Martindale, I think that's a huge move. But I really like what's going on so far, minus all the other stuff that we have to wait on. But otherwise, I think he's in a good spot. Ethan, how do you feel about it?
I'm a wait and see on Dable. I'm not sold on the Giants as a team yet. I'm not really sold on Dable. I don't really know that much. I mean, he inherited Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. So I'm not ready to say, okay, well, this is going to be a great team just based off of that. We don't know what's going to happen. So I want to wait and see how he, runs his team culture, how he builds up Danny Dimes, how he uses the talent that's on this roster. So I'm very much so. Let's see what happens. I'm probably more on the optimistic than the pessimistic side of wait and see, but it's still, we don't know what's going to happen yet.
I think that's fair, because it is unfortunately the Giants still.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Third coach, and
this one will be very quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Yeah.
Lovie Smith, Texans.
Not excited.
Not excited.
Not excited.
Not
They
excited.
just moved him from defensive to head coach.
And again, I think it's, if we bring up the last point, it should have just stayed as David Culley. I really don't understand the transition here, and that's just,
well, he had never been in any type of role like that before. Head coach, even offensive or defensive coordinator. He'd never been that before.
Yeah, I still think Coley got the short end of the stick there. And I think,
I think they should have taken a chance on him. And Lovie Smith has proved time and time again that he's not a winner.
Rex Grossman will lead the way.
No. Lovey Smith is a loser coach, in my opinion. You know, you bring him in and
Ouch.
he's a loser.
Loser coach. Oh my gosh.
Wait,
That is
didn't
How-
that's
Lovie
raining
Smith-
hellfire, but
I
I'm
mean,
also not
how-
going to
Wait,
disagree
hold
with
on.
you.
How else am I supposed to say that? You know?
Wait, didn't Lovie Smith?
He coached at
He
Illinois.
was he was the Bears coach.
Yeah, he was the Bears head coach where they had the historic defense and
Yeah.
a guy who should have been in the Hall of Fame named Devin Hester. But you had Rex Grossman at quarterback. They gave Tony Dungy, Peyton Manning their first Super Bowl. But more importantly, look at Illinois' record with them. Because I feel like more than anything, I can't believe we've talked this long on Lovie Smith. I just think it's just the lack of ability to adapt
Yeah.
is really my concern.
Yeah.
But if he's keeping the core the same, like especially the coaching staff,
There might be life.
yeah, there might be life. Pep Hamilton. All right, I'll say this. I think next year, everyone has talked about Bieniemy, and I think at this point, I think Bieniemy is the next Kansas City head coach. But we should
Okay,
start
that's
looking
fair.
at Pep Hamilton as being a head coach somewhere. Because this is, again, another quarterback that he has developed very well. From Andrew Luck to, Davis Mills. I'll look up his coaching journey real quick. But I've been very impressed with what he's done.
Yeah. Well, while you're pulling that up, I'll transition to our next one. Doug Peterson with the Jaguars. How do you feel about that, Ryan?
I do not like it.
No?
Being a Trevor Lawrence purchaser on a dynasty league, I don't know really how I feel about that. I don't have a whole lot of hope in it. And that's pretty much all my feelings on it. I don't have a whole lot of hope in Doug Peterson. I don't.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a wait and see in the sense of kind of similar to Lovie Smith of how's he going to adapt.
Yeah.
Because he was a great coach when he was at the forefront of, you know, bringing the RPO into the NFL and then going on to win the Super Bowl. But since then, where's Doug Peterson? You know, so I want to see how he adjusts. I want to see how Doug Peterson takes in a new QB, a new running back, a younger wide receiver core, just a young team in general, and you know, builds a winning culture and a winning formula in Jacksonville. That's what I want to see him do. And that's kind of why I'm a wait and see on him over not excited.
Yeah, so far, looking through it, big thing. Stanford is really the big one. In Indy as well, with helping Andrew Luck transition to the NFL game. And then he was actually with. If I'm looking at, he actually did go down to Michigan with Jim Harbaugh for a little bit, and then he was with the Browns under Hugh Jackson a little bit. But overall, I just think a lot of the young quarterbacks like that just exceed expectations. That's where I think he's been good at. And I think he's been really good at helping quarterbacks translate college game to the pro game. And I do give him credit there. But I think if Davis Mills has another good year, he will get talked about 100%. But otherwise, I know Doug Peterson, I'm in wait and see category. He did win the Super Bowl. You have to give him credit there. And he's made to the playoffs like without John DeFilippo, Frank Reich. So we'll see what happens. I think for me to think of I think Doug Peterson could be the right guy just to actually show what a head coach should be. And especially as far as like starting a culture, that's kind of where maybe he's a good bridge guy. But I need to see like who else is there. So I kind of need to see who else is coaching basically for me to feel good about it.
I get that.
The next coach, and we should bring this up.
Oh,
Ryan.
All right.
Kevin O'Connell to the Vikings.
This is what I've been wanting to talk about this whole podcast. Kevin O'Connell to the Vikings
Break time,
from the
Ethan.
Rams. From the Rams. Yeah, you guys can just take
Yeah,
a
we'll
break.
just
Just
Yep, we're
go
good.
ahead and mute yourself. I'm going to be talking for the next hour over this. No. So his move from the Rams, Super Bowl champ, already got a ring, has been sitting under McVay for 2 years. Learning from him, learning from how he moves his offense and his team. I think he's got a lot under his belt. I'm glad we picked him. The more I read into him, the more I like him. Honestly a brilliant guy, brilliant offensive mind. He's the newest branch of the McVay tree, coaching tree. Zach Taylor, Matt LaFleur, Brandon Staley, all of them are branching from McVay. Yeah, and the Vikings, why I like him, the Vikings have not had an offensive mind as a head coach
in forever.
since 2010.
Yeah.
Since Brad Childress in 2010.
Brad Childress
Yeah.
offensive mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit of a reach, but
yeah,
I know. But he
weird flex,
he
but
was
okay.
an offensive coach. But it's been since 2010 that we've had a good offensive mind there. So I was just reading up on him. I watched a video that he put out on Facebook, and he emphasizes collaboration, communication, and he made it clear that those two things between the GM and head coach crucial to a winning culture, pretty much.
Ethan, how do you feel about it?
Yeah.
I think I'm excited for O'Connell. I think there's wait and see aspects to him. But I mean, just getting an offensive minded coach in the NFL, that seems like the direction you need to head in. You need to have some sort of innovation in the offense if you're going to succeed, whether that's the OC or head coach. So I'm excited to watch this new kind of revamped Vikings of, hey, we're going to try and put together an actual offense because what we were doing before wasn't working. And I think from an ownership standpoint of saying, hey, this isn't working, we need to make a change, that excites me for the Vikings.
Yeah. And as I was reading up on him, he stated that he doesn't want to revamp the offense at all, like overhaul the entire offense. He wants to keep that zone rushing scheme, play action, that type of stuff. He wants to keep that scheme, but add his own flair onto it.
Right.
So,
but and that's, I'm not necessarily saying something completely new.
Yeah.
I'm more
but
so
it is
saying
going to be new.
The zone scheme is good when you use it right and when you're creative with it and when you can branch things off from that system. And that's something that the Vikings didn't necessarily have before. They're kind of, we're going to try it. It might work. It might not. There's not really anything of substance to it. There's not really any flair other than JJ's crazy. But, other than that, it was defense.
Yeah. And I'm just really encouraged by them bringing in not only the new GM, Adolfo. What is it? Adolfo.
We'll get back to you after Josh's statement.
Yeah. No, but I do. There's been whispers of a complete rebuild from him. Because he would be the coach to rebuild under. So
interesting.
There's been rumors of trading Cousins, Cook, Harrison Smith, Barr, like key players, getting rid of some veterans, make a bunch of trade capital or draft capital, and getting rid of some of that cap space. So yeah. I'd be interested in that, but I'm very excited.
I hate to be the negative guy. I'm in wait and see.
No, go ahead.
So here's why. 5 years of coaching, I am a little concerned there, honestly. And especially with how nuanced the NFL game is, I don't know if 5 years is enough, personally.
Yeah.
And because the thing is, like, yes, he was a player before, so I will give him that. But let's also just say this: when you're under McVay, you're not calling the plays.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big like strike for me. It's like we're gonna have to see how he does it.
Yeah.
And now, as far as a rebuild, that makes more sense because that also lets Kevin O'Connell grow as a coach. And then, but even on top of that, let's even go beforehand. He was always the guy that New England would cut and teams would sign for the week to know what to do for the scheme. And so he was getting like passed around to different NFL teams like that. And to be honest with you, that kind of just says about his IQ and acumen, honestly. So but again, there is so many more things that come to coaching. I don't know yet. I don't know whether to be excited or not. I just have a couple reservations.
Yeah.
All
get
right.
that.
Yeah. We got 4 more coaches. Nathaniel Hackett with the Broncos. I'm excited.
I'm a wait and see.
Ethan.
I'm kind of half and half on that. Wait and see and excited.
Okay, half and half. Ethan.
I'm excited. I'm excited, kind of for the same reasons as Kevin O'Connell of let's innovate this offense a little bit and get things moving.
Yeah. So Ryan, why are you wait and see? Because I'm really interested to hear what you have to say here.
I'm in that same boat as Ethan. When it comes to the offense, that offense kind of needs to be revamped. But I'm interested to see what he does with that offense. See if he can bring in somebody like, let's see who's going to be a free agent next year. Aaron Rodgers. See if he can bring his
Don't tell Green Bay.
His influence and his respect that he has of Aaron Rodgers. See if that may spark something there, a trade or something like that. So who knows?
So are you saying that it's all
I'm
dependent on like if Aaron Rodgers goes there or not?
That's where my excited comes in. I
Okay.
think it's a wait and see for that. But I think he's gonna do good things with that offense, whether or not Aaron Rodgers comes. But I think that would be exciting to see Aaron Rodgers go down there, because that offense, they have the tools right now that they could win with the right leadership. So
I think they can win with the right leadership and quarterback, personally, but
that's what I meant by leadership. Leadership not only on the team but in the front office too.
Without a doubt, they're getting a quarterback this year. I don't know who it is exactly, but they will be getting one, because you can't just throw out Drew Lock and Teddy B again. But a part of the reason why I'm excited, and I brought this up, I think either last week or the week before, with Nathaniel Hackett, he was the offensive coordinator for Blake Bortles, and I really put a lot of the struggles on the fact that it was Blake Bortles. I really think Hackett did as much as he could. I also think Doug Marrone was kind of a stooge a little bit, to be honest with you. But overall, I think they tried as much as they could, and they made it to an AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles. And literally the game before was a shootout. I don't know how you do that, to be honest with you. So that's where I think Nathaniel Hackett, to me, is a little bit higher in my mind, like over a Kevin O'Connell per se. But overall, I think that's still a good hire by Denver, regardless.
Yeah.
Now, another team here. This is interesting because I don't know what you guys think of this one. Matt Eberflus, the Colts defensive coordinator, now the Bears head coach. How do y'all feel about that?
The only one that has any sort of positive feelings for this guy is you, Josh.
Okay.
I feel like that's the best lead-in.
Oh, that's the best lead-in? Yeah. All right, so you guys want me to go first here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm wait and see, because I don't think defensive coach with young quarterback is necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we're seeing it with Staley. We saw it with Belichick and Brady. Like, it can help the quarterback develop. I really do need to see though is who's around him and what the plan is. Because as of right now, let's just say for if Allen Robinson goes, you have no one else at receiver.
Yeah.
Besides Darnell Mooney. And so I really do need to see like how the team is constructed on top of like who is part of the coaching staff for me to get excited or not. But I'll put in wait and see because I do think he gets benefit of the doubt. But otherwise, I totally understand why y'all are not excited about this.
Yeah. It just seems like another reach for, a decent defensive coordinator at head coach. I mean, I don't know what he said in the interview. It's probably something along the lines of culture and wanting to build around Justin Fields in order to get the job. But
Yep.
I mean, just recent years have proved that that doesn't work. And so it's just another instance of something that hasn't been working in the NFL, but it's not going to be us, So I'm just not excited for those
Yeah.
reasons.
But on top of that, their coach beforehand was Matt Nagy. So they tried to go with the trend and then failed, but it's because it's Matt Nagy. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, I know you wanted to say
something. I don't really have a whole lot, just because I honestly don't know a whole lot about Eberflus. He's a defensive coordinator, longtime defensive coordinator for Indianapolis. For some reason, there is an idea in Chicago that you just have to be defensive minded there. Like, it's just, they have a culture there of
they're stuck in the 60s and 70s.
Defense comes first. And unfortunately for Justin Fields and, their offensive weapons, they suffer at that. So I just hope that this is not a situation where he comes in and he just focuses on the entire draft or most of the draft on their defense and building up their defensive weapons.
All Georgia.
Then, building up their defensive weapons rather than, building that team around
Field and
around Fields, exactly,
and his skill set,
their offense.
Because you can say, "Oh, we have weapons around Fields," but if you don't play to his strengths, then that's also
if you don't,
failing him as well.
If you don't have the right weapons, that's the thing.
Another
you have to build. You have to build it. So, that's kind of why I'm not excited. And plus, I'm a Vikings fan, so anytime I see another team win that's in the same, division, like, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, stay under the Vikings' feet. That's fine.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen.
I think we're all under wait and see, but I think we all might have different reasons for it.
Yeah. I want to go first on this one.
You being the resident NFC South reporter.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. My wait and see for him is because I love what the organization did, which is hard for me to say, but I love the in-house hiring. I think more NFL organizations need to do this. I mean, we had a conversation, I think it was on the Super Bowl, just about because that was about the time when he got hired and announced and everything, of just, well, we're seeing all these coaching trees branch off when there's no need. I mean, we talked about Washington having Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, all these incredibly talented coaches that they just lost because they didn't in-house hire. They didn't look at the young talent that they have. And so, I mean, if Dennis Allen is in that category of, here's this young coach that's been with us for a while in-house, the organization loves him, the players love him, he knows the system, he knows the culture, he knows the state, well then, perfect. I think that's very optimistic for the team. So I want to wait and see what he does. And I'm not excited because I don't know what he's going to do with the opportunity, but I love the circumstances. And I think he's been a great coach. Defense has definitely been a strength for the Saints for a very long time. So I think he's going to just plug right in.
Yeah, I'm wait and see as well, but my big thing is how the roster looks at the start of the year. That's
Yeah.
my only wait and see. I think he's done enough to show that he deserves this head coaching shot more than anything.
Mhm.
But it's the Saints are in cap hell, like we mentioned before. We have
Yeah.
no idea who's leaving, and
Yeah.
on top of that, it might be Taysom Hill at quarterback. It might be Jameis. We have
Oh,
no
gosh.
idea. It could be Trevor Simeon for all we care.
Oh gosh.
I'll bring up the Orlando native, but we don't know. But I think grabbing a guy within the culture, that's a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, how do you feel about it?
To be honest, I'm a wait and see, because the Saints have always had that culture of, like, banding together, coming together. And I think that's why they, hired within, is because they wanted to keep that culture. That's my prediction, is they wanted to keep that culture in house. They wanted to, you know, kind of band together when it seems like everything else is falling apart. You're in cap hell. You just lost your head coach. Year before, you lost your franchise quarterback, somebody who's been with the team through very hard times. And you're losing everything. So having a familiar face in the building and not a completely brand new person heading up, that entire team, I think it's good that they keep that culture. I think it's going to keep the Saints together for a while. But they are going to be going through a rough year, or a rough off season, I should say, getting ready for this cap hell they're
Yeah,
going through.
yeah,
So,
that's a battle in of itself.
Yeah.
but I think hiring a head coach that knows the internal workings of the Saints, and knows key players that are, I want to say, morale boosters for the Saints, that aren't just on the field people, on the field talent. It's, locker room stuff, because getting through all of this is going to be rough when you're having to let go of veterans
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
were
but having
costing
that
major cap
continuity,
space. Yeah, having, getting rid of these veterans, getting rid of players that, you know, if you weren't in cap space, hell, you'd be keeping them. But having the leadership, continuity of leadership, I guess, have
Yeah.
that stay strong. I think that's good for them. But it's a wait and see. We don't know what's going to go on this offseason with
very
them.
much a wait and see. And now the last coach we have to talk about, he was the last one to, well, next to last one to get hired. Kevin O'Connell's technically the
No,
last
yeah,
one to
Kevin
get hired.
O'Connell was the last one.
Mike McDaniel, the offensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, is now the Miami Dolphins head coach. How do y'all feel about it?
A very tentative excitement for
That's
me.
Yeah, and I put down a wait and see, but I really don't know. I don't. This is somebody I never really researched a whole lot with Mike McDaniel, but you know, if he brings in a good culture and brings in, a good mindset to this team, they could be winning. Coming off of what, Brian Flores being their head
Yeah.
coach. The one big obstacle that he's got is the owner.
Yeah.
Well, the
So,
GM, it sounds like, too. So,
the GM too. Well, that's
Yeah. The
two
GM and
obstacles.
the
Yeah.
owner are kind of,
So,
kissing each
together.
other, and it's just not
yeah.
great.
So I
Yeah.
mean, well, so he's got major obstacles with the front office, but
I
if he can do it, cool. He's just got to navigate the politics of it.
yeah, I'm timid excited. Like, I'm excited but scared, honestly, because that team is not kind of like the team that he would probably want to run, considering the track record of being with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
But I think he deserves a shot. I think he's done really well. I still want to know who came up with the idea of putting Debo Samuel at running back. But there was a tweet from Andrew Hawkins saying literally, he has one of the best views on football. Period. And I think that goes without saying, especially looking how good San Francisco has been with their injuries and then when they have been healthy.
Mhm.
So overall, like I'm excited for it. They have a Tua problem they have to figure out. They have an O-line problem they have to figure out. And then just if the chemistry works, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But overall, I think he has a bigger problem than what anyone thinks about at the moment. But I hope he succeeds because I think he earns the shot.
I think so too.
I'm happy that he's away from Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what I'm excited for.
You just
Yeah,
went into
well-
the updated version of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of
The left-handed Jimmy.
out of the
left-handed
frying
Jim.
pan and into the fire. Just having to deal with Tua and now having to deal with the front office. That is
He's gonna have a great time. That's my prediction. No stress at all.
We'll see.
Yeah. See, I'd rather have Jimmy G and not have to worry about, my boss and my boss's boss breathing down my neck, telling me to lose games.
Yeah, and
Than
getting
have
paid
than be
100
with Tua.
grand.
Hey, but hey,
Offer.
300 grand.
Oh my-
300 grand, you know?
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
know, dude.
That's a dub.
I want to know what the legal ramifications are for that because I have
Yeah.
no idea. That sounds illegal though.
It's got to be Throwgate.
Okay. We're gonna have to,
it
yeah,
has
we're
to
gonna have
be.
to go over
Yeah,
this in a whole other episode.
Yeah, that might be a rant. To be
Yeah,
honest
that
with
might
you.
be a rant to go
Throwgate.
off.
Next rant.
Yeah. And we're working on a rant episode for
Oh,
those
it's
of
gonna
you
be
that
so
are
much fun.
So much fun.
subscribers.
We
We're
got
working on a
new
rant
Oh
new
my
episode.
fodder
God.
about the refs
Oh.
from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh,
We did the
even
injuries.
don't even
So-
get started on that.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
So let's wrap it all up at that point because
Yeah.
that was the very last coach. Otherwise, I think there are some good signs to look at from last year and to now this year as well. But thank you again for watching and or listening to the Last Place Fantasy Football podcast. Don't forget that you can find us on Anchor, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. But more importantly, we have social media accounts now. So you can find us
Yeah.
on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just find us Last Place Fantasy Podcast. And we're gonna see y'all next week. We have quite the off-season episodes to show you. I actually don't know off the top of my head what the next one is, but you can find us. We will be posting every Tuesday, unless we let you know of something different. But every Tuesday, you will find an episode from us. So for Ryan, for Ethan, and Josh, we will see y'all next week.
Bye.